The lights on the bridge of the Celestial Wanderer flickered as the ship's engines hummed back to life. Captain Zorlax stood by the main viewport, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he studied the damage report on his tablet. The recent pirate attack in the Orion Arm had left his ship wounded but still functional. 3 crew members were in the medical bay with minor injuries, and the cargo hold had lost only 2 containers to the vacuum of space when the hull was breached. "We were lucky this time," Zorlax said, his voice a low rumble that carried across the bridge. His scaled skin shimmered under the blue emergency lights. First Officer Klixa approached with another report. Her thin, tall form moved gracefully, despite the ship's occasional shudder as the stabilizers worked overtime. "Captain, security systems were compromised during the attack. The pirates knew exactly where to hit us," Klixa said. "Officer Terax is suggesting we need to upgrade our defensive protocols." Zorlax set down his tablet. "Where is Terax now?" "He requested to be relieved of duty, sir. The attack affected him. The Luraxi are not built for such violent encounters." This was the 3rd crew member to step down from the security position in the past year. Zorlax wasn't surprised. The Luraxi were excellent diplomats and navigators, but their nervous systems were simply not designed to handle the stress of combat situations. "Call a meeting of all department heads in 1 hour," Zorlax ordered. "We need to discuss our staffing requirements." Later, the ship's officers gathered around the oval table in the conference room. They represented 6 different species from across the galaxy, each bringing unique skills to the operation of the Celestial Wanderer. Zorlax stood at the head of the table. "Our recent encounter has highlighted a significant gap in our crew composition. We have brilliant mathematicians among the Quantari, excellent engineers among the Merexi, and skilled diplomats in our Luraxi colleagues. Yet we still found ourselves vulnerable when confronted with direct aggression." Merix, the chief engineer, spoke up. His metallic exoskeleton clicked as he gestured. "Our systems performed within acceptable parameters, Captain. The pirates simply had better intelligence on our security measures." "And that is precisely the problem," Zorlax replied. "We need someone who can think like an attacker. Someone who can anticipate threats before they materialize. We need a human." A hush fell over the room. Several officers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Klixa was the first to speak. "Captain, with all due respect, humans are unpredictable. Their emotional responses often defy logical analysis, and their capacity for violence is exactly why we need one," Zorlax finished for her. "There's a reason every successful long-haul vessel has at least 1 human aboard. They're living weapons when they need to be." Dr. Velix, the ship's medical officer, raised a webbed hand. "I've treated humans before. Their biology is fascinating, primitive, in many ways yet remarkably adaptable. They evolved as pursuit predators, you know. Most species in the galaxy evolved beyond their aggressive instincts before reaching space. Humans somehow retained them alongside their intelligence. That's what makes them so valuable," Zorlax said. "And so dangerous." The navigation officer, a Quantari named Pell, whose crystalline body refracted light around the room, joined the conversation. "I worked with a human on my previous assignment. She could calculate risk factors with remarkable intuition. Not as precisely as a Quantari, of course, but she had an uncanny ability to sense which variables mattered most in a crisis." Zorlax nodded. "Humans call it gut instinct. It's a decision-making process that draws on subconscious pattern recognition. Very useful in combat situations." "But can we trust one?" Klixa asked. "Humans form intense social bonds, but they're known to be fiercely independent thinkers. They question orders." "Sometimes questioning orders is exactly what's needed," Zorlax replied. "The pirates outmaneuvered us because we were predictable. A human would help us be less so." The ship's data officer, a Merexi named Trill, whose body was half organic, half machine, displayed a hologram in the center of the table. It showed statistics on crew composition across successful trading vessels in the sector. "The data supports the captain's position," Trill said. "Ships with at least 1 human crew member report 37% fewer successful pirate attacks. They also show better outcomes when attacks do occur. Zorlak studied the reactions around the table. Most officers seemed resigned rather than enthusiastic. He understood their hesitation. Humans had a complicated reputation across the galaxy. "I've already set course for Earth's orbital station Alpha," he announced. "We'll arrive in 3 days. I'll personally interview potential candidates for our security position." "What qualifications will you be looking for, Captain?" asked Merrick. Zorlax considered the question. "Military background would be helpful, but not essential. We need someone who can think creatively in a crisis, someone who understands both defense and offense, and someone who can integrate with our crew without causing too much disruption." After the meeting, Klixa followed Zorlax into the corridor. "Captain, I feel I must register my concern about this decision. A human will fundamentally change the dynamic of our crew." "That's exactly what we need, Klixa," Zorlax replied. "We've become too comfortable, too predictable. Did you know humans have a saying? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results." "A curious definition," Klixa noted, "but logical. We'll take all necessary precautions," Zorlax assured her. "I'll make sure we select a human who can adapt to our ways while still providing the unique perspective we need." Klixa's skin changed color slightly, indicating her continued concern. "I hope you're right, Captain. The Vexilian Trading Company has invested considerable resources in this vessel and its mission." "Trust me, old friend," Zorlax said. "I've served with humans before. Yes, they're emotional, yes, they can be aggressive, but when a crisis hits, there's no species I'd rather have standing beside me." As Klixa departed, Zorlax returned to the viewport. The stars streaked by as the ship accelerated toward Earth's sector. He could already sense the unease spreading through the crew as word of his decision circulated. They feared the unknown, the unpredictable. Perhaps they were right to be afraid. Humans were indeed terrifying in many ways. Their history was soaked in blood. Their entertainment glorified violence. They laughed in the face of danger. And yet, paradoxically, these were exactly the qualities that made them valuable beyond measure on the dangerous frontier of space. Zorlax smiled to himself. The crew would understand soon enough. Once they witnessed a human in action during a crisis, they would see why every experienced captain in the galaxy wanted at least one of these terrifying creatures on their crew. Earth's orbital station Alpha was a busy hub of activity. Ships from dozens of worlds docked at its spinning rings, exchanging goods, information, and crew members. Captain Zorlax and First Officer Klixa made their way through the crowded main concourse, drawing curious glances from the humans they passed. "They're staring at us," Klixa noted, her skin shifting to a nervous blue-green shade. "Humans are naturally curious," Zorlax replied, "and Vexilians are not common in this sector." They reached the station's recruitment center, a large room with transparent walls that offered a spectacular view of Earth below. A human woman with short brown hair greeted them. "Captain Zorlax, I'm Nina Bell, recruitment coordinator. We've prepared files on several candidates who match your requirements." She handed them a tablet displaying profiles of potential crew members. Zorlax and Klixa spent the next hour reviewing the information, occasionally asking Nina questions about human qualifications and terminology. "These 3 seem most suitable," Zorlax finally decided. "Can we interview them today?" Nina nodded. "They're all on the station now. I'll schedule them 1 hour apart." The first candidate was Dan Miller, a man with gray hair and a straight posture that spoke of his 20 years in Earth's naval forces. He entered the room confidently and looked directly at both aliens as he shook their hands. "Captain First Officer, it's a pleasure to meet you," he said with a firm voice. Klixa shifted uncomfortably. Among her species, such direct eye contact indicated aggression. She had to remind herself that for humans it was a sign of honesty and respect. "Mr. Miller," Zorlax began, "your military record is impressive. Can you tell us about your experience with non-human crew members?" "I served on 3 joint missions with Centaurian engineers and 1 extended deployment with a Rigelian medical team," Dan replied. "In my experience, understanding different communication styles is key to good teamwork. The interview continued for 30 minutes. Dan answered questions competently, but Zorlax noted that he frequently referred to protocols and regulations. The captain wondered how flexible Dan would be in unexpected situations. After Dan left, Klixa turned to Zorlax. He seems reliable, but perhaps too structured in his thinking? Agreed, Zorlax said. Let's see the next candidate. Lisa Wright was younger than Dan, with dark skin and curly black hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had served in her planet's police tactical division before transitioning to private security on interplanetary transports. You've survived 3 shipwrecks? Klixa asked, reading from Lisa's file with astonishment. Lisa smiled slightly. Yes, the first was a navigation error near Jupiter. The second was an engine malfunction in the Tau Ceti system. The third was a pirate attack near the frontier zone. How did you manage to survive all 3? Zorlax asked, genuinely curious. Preparation, adaptability, and a healthy dose of luck, Lisa replied. I never board a vessel without learning its emergency systems inside and out. When things go wrong, you don't have time to read manuals. Zorlax was impressed by Lisa's calm demeanor and practical approach. She didn't boast about her experiences but answered questions directly and thoughtfully. The final candidate was Frank Carter, a broad-shouldered man with a friendly smile and calloused hands. He had worked as a deep space salvage operator, recovering abandoned ships and stations. Salvage work requires creative problem-solving, Frank explained. You never know what you'll find when you board a derelict vessel. Systems might be failing, gravity could be unstable, and there might be structural damage that doesn't show up on scans. To demonstrate his point, Frank picked up a stylus from the table and quickly converted it into a makeshift tool that could serve multiple purposes. Out there, anything can become whatever you need it to be if you look at it the right way, he said. During Frank's interview, a station alarm suddenly blared. The shift in his demeanor was immediate and fascinating to both aliens. His casual, friendly expression vanished, replaced by focused alertness. He positioned himself between the aliens and the door, eyes scanning for threats. When the station announced it was only a routine drill, Frank relaxed but remained standing until the all-clear sounded. Sorry about that, he said, sitting back, down. Old habits. After the interviews, Zorlax and Klixa discussed the candidates in a private room. What did you think? Zorlax asked. They were all very human, Klixa replied. Dan Miller has the most formal qualifications but seemed rigid. Frank Carter showed impressive adaptability, but his background is less structured. And Lisa Wright? A balance between the two. Formal training combined with practical experience. And she survived situations similar to what we might face. Zorlax nodded. I noticed something else. When we asked Dan about no-win scenarios, he talked about acceptable losses. When we asked Frank, he talked about calculated risks. But when we asked Lisa, she said there's always a way out if you're willing to get creative, Klixa finished. A very human perspective. They made their decision and called Nina Bell to inform her. An hour later, Lisa Wright arrived with a single bag containing her possessions. Welcome aboard the Celestial Wanderer, Security Officer Wright, Zorlax said. Formally. Thank you, Captain, Lisa replied. I look forward to working with you and your crew. As they walked toward the docking bay, Zorlax explained the ship's mission and recent challenges. Lisa listened carefully, occasionally asking clarifying questions. The crew had gathered in the main cargo hold to greet their new human colleague. Zorlax noted how they kept a respectful distance, their natural instincts warning them about the predator species in their midst. Lisa seemed to notice their caution. She stood relaxed, hands visible at her sides, making no sudden movements. Behavior Zorlax recognized as deliberately non-threatening. This is our new security officer, Lisa Wright, Zorlax announced. She will be reviewing all our defensive systems and training procedures. The crew murmured greetings. Some looked curious, others wary. I'm here to help keep this ship and everyone on it safe, Lisa said simply. I'll need to learn from all of you about your specific needs and abilities. My door is always open for questions or concerns. As the gathering dispersed, Klixa approached Zorlax. Do you think we made the right choice, Captain? Zorlax watched Lisa chatting with Merrickx, the chief engineer, who was already showing her a schematic of the ship's layout. Yes, he said. She understands her role is not just to fight our battles, but to help us all become more secure. That's the kind of human we need. Clix's skin shifted to a thoughtful purple. They really are fascinating creatures, aren't they? So dangerous, yet so protective. That's exactly why every captain wants one, Zorlax replied. Now let's see what ours can do. 3 weeks passed since Lisa joined the crew of the Celestial Wanderer. Most of the aliens still kept their distance, but they had begun to respect her skills. Every day, Lisa worked to learn more about the ship and its systems. She studied the strengths and weaknesses of each crew member's species. She created new security plans and trained small groups in basic defensive moves. Captain Zorlax was pleased with her progress. He watched from the doorway of the cargo bay as Lisa taught 3 Marexi engineers how to defend themselves if the ship was ever boarded again. Keep your distance from attackers, Lisa explained, demonstrating a simple move. Your species has excellent balance. Use that to your advantage. You don't need to win a fight. You just need to escape and reach a communication point. The Marexi practiced the move, their metallic exoskeletons clicking as they moved. They were naturally peaceful beings, uncomfortable with physical confrontation, but they followed Lisa's instructions carefully. Zorlax approached when the training session ended. The crew seems to be accepting your methods, he said. Lisa nodded. They're quick learners. I'm trying to work with their natural abilities rather than forcing them to fight like humans. A wise approach, Zorlax replied. How are you adjusting to life among non-humans? Better than expected, Lisa said. Dr. Velix has been especially helpful in teaching me about everyone's biological needs. Did you know that Quantari require 3 times more hydration than humans? Or that Laraxi can sense emotional states through small changes in air temperature? Zorlax was impressed by her interest in the crew beyond security concerns. Most humans he had worked with in the past remained somewhat separate from alien crew members, but Lisa seemed genuinely curious about her new colleagues. Their conversation was interrupted by First Officer Clixa's voice over the ship's communication system. Captain Zorlax to the bridge immediately. We've received a distress signal. When Zorlax and Lisa arrived at the bridge, they found the officers gathered around the central display. A small science vessel was sending an emergency message from a nearby asteroid field. Their propulsion system is damaged, Clixa explained. They're trapped between shifting asteroids and cannot move to safety. How many crew? Zorlax asked. 7 researchers, a mix of Quantari and Laraxi, Clixa replied. They were studying unusual mineral formations when their vessel was struck by asteroid fragments. Zorlax considered their options. The asteroid field was unstable and dangerous to navigate. Any rescue attempt would put his own ship at risk. Yet he could not ignore a distress call from fellow space travelers. Plot a careful approach, he ordered. We'll use maneuvering thrusters only. When we get close, Lisa, prepare for a possible evacuation of their crew. Lisa nodded and left the bridge. Over the next hour, the Celestial Wanderer slowly approached the damaged science vessel. The asteroid field was dense, with rocks ranging from the size of a human fist to some larger than the ship itself. They moved in unpredictable patterns, colliding and breaking apart constantly. This is more dangerous than I anticipated, Zorlax murmured as they watched a large asteroid narrowly miss the science vessel. When they finally reached a position close enough for rescue, Lisa returned to the bridge. The docking tube is ready? Captain, I've prepared the medical bay to receive injured crew members. Zorlax sent 3 crew members, a medical officer and 2 engineers, through the docking tube to help the stranded researchers. The transfer began smoothly, with the first 2 scientists brought safely aboard the Celestial Wanderer. Then disaster struck. A sudden collision between 2 large asteroids sent a shower of smaller rocks toward both ships. One struck the Wanderer's hull near the docking tube connection point. Breach in the docking section, Merrick shouted from his engineering station. The tube is losing pressure. 3 of our crew and 5 of their scientists are still in transit. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. The docking tube's emergency seals had activated, but they were failing under the strain. If the tube collapsed completely, Those inside would be exposed to the vacuum of space. Without hesitation, Lisa sprinted from the bridge. She grabbed an emergency suit from a wall compartment but didn't take time to put it on fully. She just secured the oxygen supply and mask before racing to the damaged section. Through a viewport, Zorlax and other crew members watched in horror as Lisa manually overrode the airlock safety protocols. She forced her way into the compromised section where the tube connected to their ship. "What is she doing?" Klixa asked, her skin turning pale with fear. "She'll be killed." On the security monitors, they could see Lisa working with incredible speed. She secured herself with a tether, then physically forced the damaged airlock mechanism to close and seal manually. Part of her body was exposed to space during the process as the last of the air vented out. Yet she continued working, her movements becoming slower but never stopping. After nearly 40 seconds, an eternity to be partially exposed to vacuum, Lisa completed the emergency seal. The crew members and scientists trapped in the tube were able to enter the ship safely as Lisa collapsed. Dr. Velix rushed to the airlock as emergency atmosphere was restored. He had Lisa moved immediately to the medical bay. 2 hours later, Zorlax visited her there. She was conscious but weak with patches of frost-damaged skin on her arms and face. "You deliberately exposed yourself to vacuum," Zorlax said, his voice a mixture of awe and concern. "The ship's computer shows you overrode multiple safety protocols." Lisa's voice was hoarse when she answered. "The automatic systems were too slow. They would have tried to save the equipment. I needed to focus on saving the people." Dr. Velix joined them, his webbed hands checking Lisa's vital signs. "Captain, I've been studying what happened." Before entering the airlock, she hyperventilated to saturate her blood with oxygen. She knew exactly how long she could survive exposure and calculated the risk precisely. "You planned this?" Zorlax asked Lisa. "Calculated risk," she replied with a weak smile. "All security officers should know their physical limits." That evening, as Lisa rested in the medical bay, something unexpected happened. Crew members who had previously avoided her began to visit. They brought traditional healing foods from their homeworlds, a gesture of deep respect in many alien cultures. Klixa found Zorlax watching this procession from the corridor outside the medical bay. "I understand now," she said quietly. "It's not just their capacity for violence that makes humans valuable. It's their willingness to put themselves at risk for others." "That's the paradox of humans," Zorlax replied. "The same instincts that make them dangerous also make them the most loyal protectors. They'll fight with terrifying efficiency, but usually to defend, not to attack." As they watched, Lisa was explaining something to a group of fascinated crew members. Despite her injuries, her hands moved animatedly. "She's teaching them," Zorlax realized. "Even now, she's turning this into a learning opportunity." "Perhaps," Klixa said thoughtfully. "We have feared humans for the wrong reasons all along." 2 months after the rescue mission, the Celestial Wanderer received an important contract. They would transport rare medicinal compounds from the Proxima system to the central galactic hub. These medicines were valuable and in high demand, making them a target for pirates. Captain Zorlax called Lisa to his office to discuss the mission. She had fully recovered from her injuries, though Dr. Velix said she was lucky to have escaped with only minor tissue damage from vacuum exposure. "This route takes us through the Scarlet Nebula," Zorlax said, showing Lisa the star chart. "It's a disputed sector with limited patrol coverage." Lisa studied the map carefully. The nebula would be a perfect place for an ambush. Limited visibility, interference with sensors, plenty of places to hide. "Exactly my concern," Zorlax agreed. "We could plot a course around the nebula, but it would add 7 days to our journey. The medicines have a limited shelf life," Lisa thought for a moment. "What if we don't try to avoid trouble but prepare for it instead?" Zorlax tilted his head, a gesture of curiosity among his species. "What are you suggesting?" "If pirates are watching this route, they'll expect us to either go around or try to sneak through. What if we make it look like we're doing one thing but actually do another?" Lisa's eyes lit up as she developed her plan. "We could set a trap of our own." Over the next few days, Lisa worked with different crew members to prepare. She trained key personnel in emergency protocols. She modified cargo containers to serve as decoys. She worked with Merrick's to adjust the ship's energy signature to make it appear damaged when needed. Some crew members were nervous about intentionally putting themselves in danger. Their species' instincts favored caution over confrontation. But they had seen Lisa's dedication during the rescue mission and trusted her judgment. 3 days later, the Celestial Wanderer approached the edge of the Scarlet Nebula. The red gases swirled like blood in water, beautiful but ominous. Sensors are already showing interference, Klixa reported from her station. Visibility will be reduced to 30% once we enter. Any signs of other ships? Zorlax asked. Nothing yet, but they could be hiding in the denser parts of the nebula. Lisa stood quietly at the tactical station, monitoring the security system she had modified. Her face showed the focused calm that the crew had come to recognize as her battle readiness state. Everyone knows their positions, she said. If we're attacked, follow the protocols we practiced, no heroics. Each of you has a specific role. The ship entered the nebula. Red gases swirled around them, occasionally flashing with electrical discharges that danced across the ship's shields. For 2 hours, they proceeded without incident. Then Lisa's console beeped softly. Movement at coordinates 227 by 45, she reported. Very faint. Could be a natural disturbance, but it's moving against the nebula currents. Zorlax gave the order they had planned. Initiate protocol wounded bird. The ship's engines changed pitch. Lights flickered across the vessel as they deliberately created the appearance of systems failing. The Celestial Wanderer began to drift slightly, as if struggling to maintain course. 3 energy signatures now, Lisa said calmly. They're moving to surround us. Moments later, 3 ships emerged from the red haze. They were small but heavily armed, their hulls painted with the distinctive black and silver pattern of the Krell Raiders, pirates known for their brutality. They're hailing us, Klixa said. Zorlax nodded. On screen. A Krell captain appeared on the main view screen. His scaled face was covered in battle scars, and metal implants protruded from his jaw and eye socket. Vexillian vessel, the pirate growled. Your ship appears to be in distress. Prepare to be boarded. We offer assistance. His smile revealed sharp teeth. Zorlax pretended to look worried. Please, we're just a trading vessel. We carry nothing. Of value, the pirate laughed. We'll be the judge of that. Power down your shields or we'll blast them down. The communication ended. Zorlax looked at Lisa, who nodded. It was time. Execute Protocol Predator, Zorlax commanded. The ship came, fully alive. The apparent damage vanished as systems returned to full power. The modified cargo containers they had released earlier suddenly activated, creating energy signatures that confused the pirates' targeting systems. Lisa's fingers moved rapidly across her console. Disruption field active. Their ships can't communicate with each other now. What followed showed why humans were both feared and valued in space. Lisa coordinated the defense with precise commands, utilizing each crew member's species-specific abilities. The Quantari handled complex shield modulations. The Merexi operated weapons with mechanical precision. The Luraxi monitored the pirates' emotional states through subtle communication signals. The pirates, expecting an easy target, found themselves facing a prepared and organized defense. One pirate ship was disabled by a precisely aimed shot at its propulsion system. Another became tangled in a web of magnetic mines that Lisa had hidden in the nebula gases. But the third ship managed to get close enough to launch boarding pods. 6 pirates forced their way onto the Celestial Wanderer through a maintenance airlock. Lisa grabbed a stun baton from her station. Security team with me. All non-combat personnel to safe rooms now. As the boarders spread through the lower decks, Lisa led her team to intercept them. The aliens who watched through security monitors witnessed Lisa in full combat mode, a transformation so complete that several crew members later reported feeling instinctive fear, despite being her allies. She moved with fluid precision, anticipating the pirates' tactics as if she could read their minds. When a Krell raider twice her size charged at her, Lisa used his momentum against him, sending him crashing into a bulkhead. Another fired a weapon at her, but she was already moving, the shot missing by centimeters. During the fight, Lisa took a glancing blow to her shoulder. Dr. Velix, monitoring from the medical bay, noted with amazement that she showed no reaction to what must have been significant pain. She simply adjusted her fighting stance and continued. Within 20 minutes, all the boarders were subdued, though 2 crew members suffered minor injuries. The pirate ships, seeing their boarding party captured and their sister ships disabled, retreated into the nebula. After the danger passed, Lisa organized the security team to guard their prisoners until they could reach a patrol station. Only then did she report to the medical bay to have her injury treated. Most species would be incapacitated by this level of pain, Dr. Velix said as he examined her wounded shoulder. Pain is just information, Lisa replied calmly. Sometimes you need to acknowledge it and move on. Later, Klixa and Zorlax discussed the encounter on the bridge. I understand now, Klixa said quietly. It's not just that humans can fight, it's that they can become something else entirely when needed, then return to civilization afterward. No other species can compartmentalize violence like they do. Zorlax nodded. That's why humans are both feared and valued. They carry within them the capacity for terrible violence, but they control it, direct it, use it to protect rather than harm. At least the good ones do. They watched as Lisa entered the bridge, her shoulder bandaged but her movement already nearly back to normal. The crew members she passed no longer showed the nervous caution of her first days aboard. Now, they nodded with respect, some even smiling in the manner of their species. Status report? She asked, returning to her station as if nothing unusual had happened. On course for the central hub, Zorlax replied. Cargo secure, and thanks to you, crew safe. Lisa simply nodded and turned to her console. But the captain noticed the subtle smile on her face, the quiet pride of a human who had done what humans do best, faced danger head-on and emerged victorious. 6 months had passed since Lisa Wright joined the crew of the Celestial Wanderer. The ship docked at the Central Galactic Hub, an enormous space station that served as the crossroads for thousands of vessels from across the galaxy. Countless species mingled here, trading goods, information, and culture. Captain Zorlax gave the crew 3 days of shore leave. They had earned it after completing several challenging missions. The medicinal compounds had been delivered safely, despite the pirate attack. They had navigated a dangerous ion storm to rescue stranded miners. They had even served as diplomatic transport for Quantari ambassadors during tense negotiations with the Merexi Collective. Through it all, Lisa had proven herself invaluable. The crew no longer feared her human nature. They relied on it. She had trained many of them in basic self-defense. She had improved the ship's security systems. Most importantly, she had shown them how to think differently when facing danger. On the second day of their stay at the hub, Captain Zorlax visited the officers' lounge, a luxurious area reserved for ship captains and their senior staff. He was surprised to find Captain Yendri already there. Yendri was a Laraxi who commanded the luxury passenger liner Infinite Serenity and an old rival from Zorlax's academy days. Zorlax, what an unexpected pleasure, Yendri said, his tone suggesting it was anything but. I heard your little trading vessel had some excitement recently. Pirates in the Scarlet Nebula? Nothing we couldn't handle, Zorlax replied calmly, taking a seat at the bar. Luck favors the foolish, they say, Yendri commented with a smirk. The Infinite Serenity would never take such risks with our elite passengers aboard. Our automated security systems are the most advanced in the quadrant. No need to enter dangerous sectors at all. Before Zorlax could respond, Lisa entered the lounge. She was wearing the formal uniform of the Celestial Wanderer's crew, the blue and silver colors contrasting with her dark skin. Several captains turned to look at her, some with curiosity, others with barely concealed wariness. Ah, your new security officer, Yendri said, his eyes narrowing. I heard you recruited a human, still relying on primitive species for protection. My advanced security systems eliminate the need for such volatile elements. Lisa approached and introduced herself politely. If she heard Yendry's insult, she gave no sign of it. Instead, she discussed various security approaches with genuine interest, even complimenting the Luraxi design philosophies that influenced Yendry's ship systems. Later, as they left the lounge, Zorlax apologized for Yendry's behavior. "No need," Lisa said with a smile. "I've heard worse. Besides, his security systems do sound impressive. For predictable situations, it's the unpredictable ones that matter." Her words would prove prophetic sooner than either of them expected. That evening, a massive power failure hit the station. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows through the sprawling complex as thousands of visitors from across the galaxy found themselves in darkness. Station officials announced it was a temporary malfunction, but minutes stretched into hours. Lisa was exploring the commercial district with Merrick's and Dr. Velix when the lights went out. She immediately noticed several concerning details. The emergency systems were not functioning properly. Gravity was becoming unstable in some sections, and security personnel were nowhere to be seen. "This isn't a normal failure," she told her companions. "Stay close." As they made their way back toward their ship's docking area, they heard shouts and sounds of struggle ahead. Lisa motioned for her colleagues to wait while she investigated. Around the corner, she found several wealthy-looking passengers being herded into a maintenance corridor by armed figures. She recognized Captain Yendry among the captives, his distinctive Luraxi features visible even in the dim light. Lisa quickly returned to her companions. "We have a situation. It looks like someone planned this outage as cover for a robbery, or worse. Several people are being taken hostage, including Captain Yendry." "Should we call station security?" Dr. Velix asked. Lisa shook her head. "Communications are down and we don't know who to trust. Someone very skilled is behind this. We need to act now." Despite having no weapons beyond a small utility knife, Lisa formulated a plan. She had Merrick's use his engineering skills to access a maintenance panel, where he was able to restore limited power to their section. Dr. Velix prepared medical supplies from a nearby first aid station. Lisa herself found simple items, cleaning, tools, kitchen implements, even decorative objects, and quickly repurposed them into makeshift defensive weapons. "Stay behind me," she told her companions as they approached the corridor where the hostages were being held. What happened next became the subject of much discussion throughout the hub for weeks afterward. Witnesses described how a single human, female, accompanied by a Marexi engineer and a medical officer, managed to overpower 5 armed criminals who had taken Captain Yendry and his wealthy passengers hostage. Lisa used the environment to her advantage, creating distractions with controlled power surges. She moved with the same focused intensity the Celestial Wanderer's crew had witnessed during the pirate attack. She anticipated the criminals' movements, intercepting them with precise strikes that incapacitated without killing. When one attacker fired an energy weapon at Dr. Velix, Lisa threw herself into the path of the beam, taking a painful burn to her arm but protecting her colleague. Despite the injury, she continued fighting until all 5 criminals were subdued. By the time station security finally arrived, Lisa was already tending to the hostages, having instructed Dr. Velix to treat the most seriously injured criminals first, a gesture that did not go unnoticed by the watching aliens. As power returned to the station and order was restored, Captain Yendry approached Zorlax and Lisa in the medical center where her burn was being treated. "I believe I owe you an apology," he said stiffly. "And my gratitude," Lisa nodded graciously. "Anyone would have done the same." "But that's just it," Yendry replied. "They wouldn't have. Most species would have waited for authorities. Most would have prioritized their own safety. Most would not have known how to function so effectively in a crisis." He hesitated, then continued with obvious difficulty. "I wonder if you might consider providing some consulting services for the infinite. Serenity? Perhaps there are gaps in our security approach that a human perspective could address." Zorlax tried not to look too pleased as he responded. "I believe Officer Wright's contract with the Celestial Wanderer is exclusive, but we might arrange some limited consulting hours. In the days that followed, Zorlax noticed a curious trend. Several captains who had previously shown disdain for humans were now discreetly inquiring at the station's crew assignment office about human availability. The incident with Yendri had spread throughout the hub, growing with each retelling. On to you. Their final evening before departure, Lisa and Zorlax shared a quiet meal in the station's observation deck, watching ships come and go against the backdrop of stars. "You've heard the rumors, I assume?" Zorlax asked. "They're saying no less than 7 vessels have added human crew members since the incident." Lisa smiled. "They still find us terrifying, don't they?" "Absolutely," Zorlax confirmed. "And that's precisely why by tomorrow there won't be a single human left available for hire in this sector." As they prepared to depart the next morning, Lisa was surprised to find not 1 but 3 new human crew members reporting for orientation. A former medical officer named Alan Rogers would be joining Dr. Velix's team. A navigation specialist named Carol White would work with the Quantari navigators. And security would gain Steve Kennedy, a former station defense instructor. "I thought we only needed 1 human," Lisa said to Zorlax, curious. The captain's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, his species' version of a smile. 1 human proved invaluable. Imagine what 4 can accomplish. As the celestial wanderer pulled away from the hub, the new humans were welcomed by the crew with the traditional greeting now reserved exclusively for their species. "May your predator instincts always favor us." Lisa found herself reflecting on the strange journey that had brought her here. Humans were still feared across the galaxy for their capacity for violence, their unpredictability, their emotional responses. Yet these very qualities, carefully channeled, made them the most sought-after crew members in space. Terrifying, perhaps, but that was exactly the point.